How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Beis, Daf 32 of Masechta Gittin. Friends. Today we begin the fourth parak of Masechta Gittin. I learned this daf while I was on the train to the Chasana the other day. And it talks about Gittin and messengers. And says the Mishnah on Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph at the beginning of the fourth parak, Hashaleach get leishto. A fellow sends a get to his wife with a messenger, Vigia b'shaliach, and he catches up with the shaliach, or sheshalach achorav shaliach, or he sent a messenger to catch up with his messenger. Ve'amalo get shenasati l'cho botolhu. And he says, look, forget it. I'm calling it off. The get is null and void. Right? So he sends a get with a shaliach to deliver it to his wife. And then after he sends it with the messenger, he says, wait, 1 second. He chases after the shaliach, catches up with him. He says, what's it called? Halt the presses. Halt the press. Stop. Don't deliver the thing. Don't deliver the get. It's bottle. Right? He says, get shenasati l'cho bottle hu. The get that I have given to you is bottle, or shall be bottle, as we're going to see in the Gemara. Is a bottle. Okay, so it's bottle. And so this is either if he catches up with the shaliach, or he sends a shaliach to catch up with the shaliach. Kide metzel ishto. If he didn't meet up with the shaliach, but he made it to his wife's residence before the shaliach arrived with the get, or he sent a second messenger to arrive at his wife's residence before the get arrives. And he says to his wife, "Get shalachti loch botelu," that the get that is en route. The get that's on its way is bottle. Or is a bottle? It's bottle. Get liyodo shuven yochol levatlo. But if he shows up at his wife's house and she had already received the get, well, they're divorced. Too late. Initially, a husband wouldn't even need to catch up with the shaliach. Oh, a babel yarn is coming. Wow, some yarns are better than others. Alright. So initially, if the husband wanted to be mevatel the get, he wouldn't even have to chase after anybody to catch up and be mevatel before it reaches his wife. He could just, wherever he is, just convene a bezdin. The Gemara at the beginning of tomorrow's daf is gonna say, do you need 2, do you need 3, whatever it is. But you convene a bezdin and you mevatel it remotely. However, Hiskin Rabban Gamliel Azokin Takona, he says Shelo you osin kain, that no, don't do this. Don't just remotely be mevatel a get without catching up with the shaliach mipnei tikkun olam, because out of the concern, because it would be very problematic if you have a shaliach who's on his merry way to deliver a get. Little does he know that you would mevatel it remotely. So, that could create problems, because then he gives it to the wife and she thinks that she's divorced, but she's not. Bekitzer makes a mess. It makes a mess. She's going to get divorced. It makes a mess. So, she's going to get married. She's not going to be divorced, but she'll think she's divorced and she'll get married. Mamzer, a mess. So, Rabban Gamliel says, Rabban Gamliel Azokin. That's not Rabban Gamliel, right? As we know. Right? Hillel, like the great Hillel Azokin, Hillel, he had a son named Shimon. Shimon had a son named Rabban Gamliel Hazokin. Rabban Gamliel Hazokin had a son Shimon. That Shimon had a son Rabban Gamliel. That's Rabban Gamliel, like Rabbi Yeshua, Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel had a son Shimon. That's Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, who is the father of Rebbe. Let's go weiter. Higio lo katani, ela higia para. So the Gemara is medayik that the Mishnah doesn't say higio bashaliach. It says higia. He bumped into the shaliach. He arrived at the shaliach, right? Meaning higio would imply that he chased after him. He pursued him. higia means he just happened to be in the same place, right? So no, I had a situation, an interesting matzav like this recently. These people were on my case to read a book. I had no interest in reading the book. I'll tell you, I didn't read it. They know I didn't read it. I told them I didn't read it. I looked at it, I said, this is not for me. This is not for me. It was written by it's not for me. I'm a practical guy. I'm interested in books written by people who have done stuff. I'm not interested in books written by people who talk about doing stuff, but haven't actually ever done anything. But anyways, they were very adamant I needed to read this book. So I said, all right, fine, you get me the book, I'll read it. But again, I didn't read it. I took one look at it and I said, it's not for me. Anyways, so it was interesting. So they went through all of these hoops to get me this book. They sent it from the United States of America, from Virginia. They sent it for somebody who was in Tel Aviv for just a few days. They got it from there to somebody else who was in Tel Aviv, who then brought it to Yerushalayim, but this whole thing took a week or more. And then I spent a half an hour picking it up from that guy. What a waste of a half an hour. But anyways, I had to do my part. And I went and I picked it up. And then what ended up happening was that the person who sent it from Virginia I ended up seeing him in Yerushalayim. Like, they ended up, basically he could have brought it himself, is the point. So they ended up, why is this relevant over here? No, it's relevant because they happen to be, right, the shaliach is the guy who I picked it up from. And then the sender, so if we do it, no, this is a great example. Meaning, over here you have the husband. The husband is sending the get with a messenger. And then it just so happens to be that they end up being in that same place. Just like in my case, you have the sender of the book, sent it and it made up this whole way, and this shaliach ended up being from Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim. The sender himself ended up being in Yerushalayim as well. Okay. This is all to say that you have the husband, meaning, so you have the husband, he sends the get with the shaliach. So one way to be mevatel the get would be he chases after the shaliach and he catches up with the shaliach and he's panting and he's out of breath. He says, "Oof, I'm so glad I caught you in time." That get is batel. But the other option is that, I don't know, he lives in New York, his wife lives in Miami, and he sends the get with the messenger, and the messenger is on his way to, and the messenger is delivering it, and he's now in North Carolina. I think that's probably on the way to Florida. And the shaliach's in North Carolina, and the husband actually has business in North Carolina, so he happens to be there for business. He bumps into the shaliach, and he says, "Oh, right, shaliach guy. Hey, good to see you. You know what? The get that you're bringing to my wife in Miami, forget it. It's batel." So those are two different things, right? The first case, he huffs and he puffs and he chases after the shaliach and he catches up with him and he says, "I'm glad I got you in time." The get is batel. The other one is, he had no intention to catch up with the shaliach. He happens to be in the same place as the shaliach. It just happens to work out that way. And he's like, "Oh, hey, okay, wow, hi, how are you? You know what? The get that you're bringing for my wife, forget about it. It's batel." Wow, that was a very long-winded way of saying something I probably could have done in like 30 seconds. Anyway, so higio, back in the Gemara, higio lo katani, doesn't say that he chased after him, el higia. Right, even if it just worked out that way, he didn't actually intend to catch up with the shaliach, it just happened to work out that way. They were both in the same place at the same time. And we don't say that he's just trying to be a nudnik and to yank her chain and to be annoying. Why do I have to explain so much stuff? No, I'm saying, like, it just feels like everything here needs to be explained because it's a very technical thing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. This Gemara is like very, very technical. So apparently, this guy might be trying to be playing games because he's just trying to be annoying to his wife. And so If he chases after the shaliach and he's huffing and he's puffing and he catches up and he says, I'm glad I caught you in time, that get is batel. Okay, so Mele, he's invested, right? He put in the energy to catch up with the shaliach, and he catches up with him, he's mevatel the get, okay, the get is batel. But in the case where they happen to bump into each other in North Carolina, and he's like, oh, meaning is no, you didn't actually invest anything in being mevatel the get, you just happened to bump into him, and he's like, oh, you know what, that get, it's batel. But he doesn't really mean to be mevatel, it just means to be annoying. And it's like this scheme that only he's kind of privy to, which is like, he's kind of saying that it's batel, but it isn't really batel, he's just like trying to be annoying, so he'll give her the get, but then she'll like kind of think it's batel, but it's really not, but she'll be divorced, but she won't, and then later on he'll tell her, oh, by the way, I was just kidding, and then she'll be divorced. And he just like wants to be annoying, okay? So you might think that the get isn't really batel, he just wants to be annoying. So Kamash Milan, that no, even if they bump into each other, without planning, right, he's not huffing and puffing, he just happens to bump into the guy, still it's batel, and we don't say he's just being annoying. Wow, at this rate we are never going to finish this daf, and I feel like it's not even a difficult daf. Okay, I gotta get moving over here. I gotta get the show on the road. You guys have stuff to do. I have stuff to do. Why am I faffing around over here? So we said, so either if he himself catches up with the shaliach, or if he sends a shaliach to catch up with the shaliach. Lamali, why do I need this example? Well, I need the Mishnah to tell me this, because otherwise I might think that if instead of chasing after the shaliach himself, he sends a shaliach to catch up with the shaliach and be mevatel again, maybe what will happen is the shaliach catches up with the original shaliach and says, original shaliach, I've been sent to tell you that the get is batel. And he says, well, why is your shlichus any stronger than my shlichus? I was told to deliver the get. You're telling me not to deliver the get. What makes your, position stronger than my position? The get is not batel. I'm delivering the get. So Kamash Milan, that the get is batel. And yes, the second shaliach could be mevatel the shlichus and the get that the first shaliach has. Kodam hu eitzel ishto lamali. Okay, the Mishnah then had continued and said that if he arrives at his wife's residence before the get arrives and says this get is batel, it's going to be worthless when it arrives. Mau detema ki lo aminon litzaura ko michaven hane mile lishaliach. Avaladida vaday. So, I might think that when we say that no, he's not just being annoying and he's actually being mevatel the get, that's only when he's interacting with the messenger, with the shaliach. But if he goes and he's interacting with his wife, they're getting divorced. They're not on such great terms right now. He very well might be just trying to be annoying. So Kamash Milan, then no, if he shows up at his wife's house and says that the get is batel, he's not just being annoying, the get is actually batel. Why do I need it to mention the case where he sends a shaliach to her residence? I may have thought that, well, in his case, he wouldn't go through the headache of, rushing to her house and actually having to exert any energy in this just in order to be annoying. Right? To which the Gemara is, right, but I might think that his messenger, where it's no sweat off his back, right, he's not, right, the Baal the husband isn't doing any of the work, the messenger is doing all the work. Maybe, he is just, maybe the husband is just trying to be annoying and not, he doesn't have to exert any energy, he's sending a messenger to do it. So Kamash Milan, that no, here as well we say that the get is actually batel and he's not just being annoying. Fine. The Mishnah then said something which seems pretty obvious, which is that once she receives the get, he can no longer be mevatel it. Pshita, isn't that obvious? I mean, once she receives the get, she's divorced. Of course, he can't be mevatel the get after it's already, been used to divorce her. Well, it's talking about a situation that well, prior to her having received the get, he was chasing after the shaliach, and he was trying to find the shaliach. Has anybody seen my shaliach? He was actively trying to be mevatel. He was actively chasing after the shaliach prior to her receiving it. So we may have thought that this be'etzet, right, the fact that he was chasing after the shaliach to be mevatel it, even though he wasn't actually mevatel it and he didn't catch up with the shaliach, but the fact that he was chasing after the shaliach, maybe we would assume that he was mevatel the get. So kamash malon, that no, we don't assume that. If the get arrives at if she receives the get before he arrives, she is divorced. Tana Rabbanan, bottle who, if he says it is bottle, or really what this means is, as we're going to see now, that's basically the discussion right now, is that it will be bottle. Efshi bo, or I can't, I'm not interested in this get being valid. Dvar kayomin, so it works. It's mevatel the get. Posel who, but if he makes a claim that the get is posel, right? Meaning he seems to just be like trying to disqualify the get. Aino get, or if he says it's not a get, lo amar klum, he hasn't said anything because that's baloney. What do you mean it's a posel get? It's not a posel get. What's wrong with the get? Or aino get, it's not a get. What do you mean it's not a get? It is a get. So if he says those things, it's irrelevant. But if he says that it should be bottle, or that he's not interested in it being a get, so then it's bottle. Lemember the bottle lishna to lebatel mashma barapo. Does that imply that bottle means in the future? Right? Meaning he's not saying that it is bottle right now, or that it was bottle previously. He's saying that it should be bottle. That it will be bottle. I'm making it bottle. V'amar Rabba bar Evo Amar Rav Sheshes v'Amar Amar Rabba bar Avua Mikabel Matone. But one second, if you have a fellow who has received a gift, that after having received the gift, he now says, Matone zo mivuteles. Oh, this gift, it's bottle. Tibato. Or it should be bottle. Ef shiba. I'm not interested in it. Lo amar klum. It's irrelevant because he already received the gift, right? If you already received the gift and made a kinyan on it, and now it's his, so you can't just say, oh, it's not mine, it's bottle. You received it, it's yours. But beteilahi, if it says beteilahi, implying that no, even before I received it, it was bottle and I never received any, right? It shouldn't be considered as having received anything. Eino matono, or that it was never a gift, dvar kayomin. So then it works. So I'm a bottle meikar mashmo. So here we're saying beteilahi, which is bottle. So it's saying meikar, it was initially, even prior to me having received it, it was already bottle. So on the one hand, we're saying that by the get, when we're saying bottle who, we're saying that it will be bottle in the future. And yet by the gift, it seems that when he says bottle, it means already before I received it, prior, in the past, it's already bottle. So Mabai bottle, shtei lishonis mashma. That bottle could imply both future and past. Mashma de bottle, mashma de livotel. It can imply both that it already was bottle initially. It could also imply that it should be bottle. Kabe get lishna de mahani be komer. Kabe matone lishna de mahani be komer. Then when it comes to a get, so you have to understand bottle in context, which means that it should be bottle in the future. When you're talking about a gift, you have to understand bottle in context, which means that it was already prior to having received it, already bottle. Omra Abaye says, Nikitinon shaliach maton areu ki shliach haget. We say that a messenger to deliver a gift is like a messenger to deliver a divorce document. Nafkamine loholech lav kizchidami. The nafkamina is that we say just like we say by a get, that holech lav kizchidami, that if you say holech, take this get to my wife, when the messenger receives it, he's not receiving it right then on behalf of the wife. He's not being zochid, mizakid. He's not accepting it on her behalf. So the same thing by a matone, and therefore it could be mevatel the gift before it's received by the receiver. Ravina Ashkeche l'Rav Nachman Ravina Ashkeli Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok. So Ravina found Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok that he was chilling like a villain. And he asked, Bottle Mao. What if he says bottle? If he doesn't say bottle, who? What if he says bottle? Take, we say, ich weiß nicht. Omer Rav Sheshes says, Rav Sheshes, v'amilov masnisatana, some say taka braisa, get ze lo yo'il, it will not work. Lo yater, it will not permit her to get married to other people. Lo yaziv, it will not create a abandonment. Lo yishalach, it will not send her away. V'lo yigarish, it will not divorce. Yehei cheres, it should be like earthenware, pottery. Yehei kicheres, it should be like pottery. Dvar kayom. So in all those cases, they're all future tense, so that's fine. Eino mo'il, it is ineffective now. Eino mater, it currently does not permit anybody. Eino maziv, it doesn't abandon. Eino mishalech, it doesn't send away. Eino megarish, it doesn't divorce. Cheresu, it is earthenware. Kicheresu, it's like earthenware. Lo amar klum. So then it's gunished. It has to be future tense. Ibaylu de asakasha, rehu cheres mau. It is pottery. What? I don't know that should work. Just like a person could say Hareyu Hefker, Hareyu Hekdish. Those are valid statements that we see all over the show. We see it all over the place in Gemaras. So Hareyu Cheres should be an acceptable term as well. Choser Megarishbo and Choser Megarishbo. Barada. If a husband is mevatel the get, can he use it again? Meaning, if he had written a get and it was kosher, then he sends it with the shaliach, and then he says, no, shaliach, forget it, halt the press, don't deliver it. Can he then, an hour later change his mind and say, you know what, deliver it? Do we say that the get is already bottled and it's unusable anymore? Or do we say that no, he was mevatel the shlichus? He told the guy, don't deliver it. So the shaliach is no longer, has been sort of demoted or he's had his responsibilities removed from him. But the get itself is still a good get. So again, so choser megarishbo. So can the husband still use this get? Or no choser megarishbo or not? Rav Nachman, no choser megarishbo. Rav Nachman says sure, he can reuse it later. Rav Sheshes says nisht. He's mevatel the get, it can't be reused. Also kavasa to Rav Nachman, the halacha is like Rav Nachman, that he's being mevatel the shlichus, but the get remains intact. Ini, is halacha really like Rav Nachman, that he can reuse the get? But we say that the halacha is like Rav Yochanan in the following case, the Amar Choseres, in the case where she says she's being Choseres. He's talking about a situation where a fellow gives a fellow kesef kiddushin, money to get married. And he says, I'm giving you this money, and it'll be effective in 30 days, and she accepts it. And therefore, and she accepts the money, and in 30 days, they will be married. But then after 15 days, at some point before then, she says, you know what, forget it, I changed my mind. So, it's bottle. It's bottle. It's bottle, the Kedushin is bottle. So we should say over here, that also when he gives the get to deliver it to the shaliach, to deliver it to the wife, and he says, wait, hold the presses, don't deliver it. So here also it should be bottle. So the Gemara says, one second. Those are 1 second. Also dibur v'diburhu. Also dibur m'vatal dibur. 1 second. In the case of the Kiddushin, what's going on? He gives her money, and he says, accept this money, and we'll get married in 30 days. She says, sure, and she accepts it. Then at some point before the 30 days, she says, you know what, forget it, I'm not interested, and she reneges. All she's doing is canceling her prior statement. It has nothing to do with the money. The money goes back to the fellow, and he could be makadesh her with that money a second time. Nothing's wrong with the money. Just that initially she had accepted the kiddushin, and now she's saying, you know what, forget it. I actually don't want it. All she's doing is reversing her verbal acceptance, but the money itself is as good as ever. And here, granted that he told the shaliach to stop, don't deliver it, but the get itself is still fine. If he changes his mind and says, you know what, shaliach, deliver it, so let him deliver it. That was Daf Lamed Beis of Masechta Gittin. We started the fourth parak of Masechta Gittin. We talked about situations that you can, if a fellow sends a get with a shaliach, that he can catch up with him and say, hey, fellow, don't deliver it, and then he doesn't deliver it. We got to an interesting machlokas there at the end between Rav Nachman and Rav Sheshes about when he calls it off, is the get bottle like Rav Sheshes says, or is it just the shlichus is bottle, but the get is still intact, like Rav Nachman says, and we say Allah is like Rav Nachman. Friends, I hope you enjoy. Peace out.